Hello everyone, my name is Caroline Nicolet and I'm an archaeology educator as well as a living historian. I usually portray the lives of people during the Iron Age, so 2000 years ago, up until Tudor times in the 16th century. Now unfortunately for the moment we can't all meet up in museums, so we decided to come to you with a video and share a very Tudor recipe that was a very expensive sugary treat at the time, but that you can now make very simply in your own kitchen, even with children. And I will show you at the end of the video how to turn this 500 years old recipe into very modern chocolatey truffles for St Valentine's Day. Our first recipe will be the Tudor marzipan, the Tudor marchpane. It's very simple. It uses 3 ingredients that you can see for the moment on the screen. Rose water, that we won't make ourselves today, sugar and almonds. We also have a little bit of water and a dish to measure. This is a pestle and mortar, a 16th century replica one. I also have another one that will help me grind almonds because I don't want to break the other one made out of pottery. So, for a start, we would have cane sugar, probably raw, not even that expensive refined white sugar, and we will have to grind it by hand completely to get icing sugar. So very fine powder. Of course, we now have to deal with the almonds. And as we want to have ground almonds, instead of using shop-bought ones, we will have to grind the almonds as well. Using the pestle and mortar, if you have one at home, please do try, but be careful. You can see they jump quite high. Once everything is ground, you will see the consistency is exactly the same as the one you can buy in any shops nowadays. They really are a fine almond powder. Now, we will need to measure and to mix the same volume, so the same amount of ground almonds and sugar together. Of course, 16th century, we didn't have electric scales like we have in modern kitchens. So 1 big spoon of ground almonds and the same, a bit more spoon of ground sugar. And a bit more. Keep a little bit on the side to adjust your quantities. Bit more almonds as well. And mix. Once everything is well mixed, you might need to choose a very small quantity of liquid to add to it. So start by using a drop or even less, but very, very little rose water. It's very, very strong. It's very potent. A bit of water, about 1, 2 tiny spoonfuls, and mix again. You need to get a form of dough, form of paste that comes together, sticks together, but is not too wet or too sticky to your fingers. And you will see that this one might be a little bit too sticky. In that case, don't worry, you can always add a little bit more sugar, little bit more almonds, and try again and again and adjust your quantities until you get the right paste. And here we are. This is it. It comes together. It's not too sticky. And you will be able to shape it into different truffles, different sculptures. So in the 16th century, in Tudor times, the Queen of England, Elizabeth I, was very fond of marchpane, of marzipan. You could, for example, flatten it, give it a very specific shape using stamps. I have a selection in the picture on the top left corner. Oops, a little bit too much sugar. There you go. That sugar in the little dish will prevent the marzipan, still sticky, to stay stuck at the bottom of the pan. This is a Tudor rose pottery stamp. This is a wooden one, and my favorite is that little one, a goose. Now to decorate it, if it's made of pottery, always make sure you dip it in water, otherwise it will absorb the water that is still in the marzipan and will really stick to it. So make sure you dampen it, well, a lot. Press gently. It's a bit like Play-Doh, really. And here you go, you have a little rose. Now you can give your marzipan or your marchpane a lot of different shapes. Here's a heart. We had in Tudor times another example of decorated marzipan. It's just dry, and this is the coat of arms of the Shakespeare family. You can see still the grains in it. So this one has been painted and gilded. So you can shape it with any instruments. This is just a sharpened quill or a stick. I have knives, I have stamps, and I have my favorite paintbrushes, horsehair and a feather, a goose feather. And the top of the feather has been put in the bottom of it to make a little paintbrush. If you want to gild, so to put gold leaf on your marzipan, it's actually not that expensive, but at the time it was incredibly so. You can find it in some supermarkets, sold in these little squares. Here you go. And the gold leaves are extremely fine, so don't sneeze and don't breathe too heavily on them. I will very quickly show you how you can easily at home decorate your marzipan with gold leaf. So you saw I scrubbed the paintbrush on the skin of my hand. That's to adjust all the little bristles of the paintbrush. And you very gently put it on the side of the marzipan that is still damp, so still sticky. There you go. Might not be the exact best, but a little bit of gold leaf on marzipan makes it look so much posher. If I was to put it in the oven, it would turn brown like that. And I really prefer having a light marzipan, so I will just leave it to dry for about a night, maybe a day. If I want to decorate it further, I can use handmade little sweets or sugar decorations. There you go, a little leaf and a sweet that I bought. Here we are. Now, when you will have finished that, we'll swap to marzipan truffles. You still need the same ingredients: almonds, sugar, water, a spoon to measure, rose water, or actually a different taste. I like rose water personally, especially with coconuts. Or I will use here coffee extract. You could even use almond essence or vanilla. Measure your ingredients. Oops, a bit of icing sugar and almonds together. Here we go. Instead of Tudor times, we will have now an electric mixer. So you don't have to grind anything at all. It will save an awful lot of time. Put all your sugar, all your almonds, ground or not, in the KitchenAid, and we'll grind everything. Make sure you block the top, otherwise a lot of the sugar might go off. Here you go. Now, time to see how it all turned out. Make sure nothing is actually stuck on the side, so you can see here a bit of the sugar and a bit of the almonds stayed too much on the side. I want everything in the center. I will add a bit of liquid and I will start by the essence you prefer, the rose water or the coffee extract. For this amount, so for about 100 grams of almonds, I use about 50 grams of sugar and half a teaspoon of coffee essence or coffee extract. Ideally, you want to mix it already with a little bit of water, so that's 1 spoonful, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see for the moment if it's enough or if you need a little bit more later. It's easier to add some water, you can't remove it. Right, let's have a look to see if the consistency is right. Stir it. If you find that it's not quite sticky enough, you see for the moment that is a little bit too grainy. It falls apart, so you need a little bit more liquid. Let's add another spoonful, and that should be enough. There you go. And mix again. Checking the consistency. If it's too wet, you can always add a little bit more sugar and a little bit more almonds, ground almonds. Let's see. So now it seems to stick really well together. Make a test and try to roll it into a bead, into a sphere. Perfect. Now, you will be able to shape it in whatever shapes you like. I will show you a few different ones. The first one you need to be able to master, shall we say, is to make just a bead. There you go. That will be the main base for our modern truffles. It could well have been made exactly in the same way in the 16th century. Now, making a peach. Same again, with a small amount of marzipan, of marchpane, make a ball, make a sphere. Always start in the same way. Now, once you have one, and it stays together, it's perfectly round, you will need a knife. I'll use, weirdly enough, an Iron Age knife. Make a little line, don't cut it, but just press it, and you see how I use the side of the blade to just flatten a little bit the line I just made. So instead of cutting it, just marking, I flatten the ends with my fingers, just to give this sort of line that you can find on peaches or apricots. It looks a little bit strange at the moment, but you will see at the end how it turns out. Leave it to dry. Now you can keep going and we'll try to make a heart. Of course, being St Valentine's Day, we thought that that would be a shape people would be interested in. So instead of making a ball, flatten it in your hand. Make sure it's not already stuck to your hand, so turn it a little bit. Now you want to start by the point of the heart. So make a sort of drop shape. Then you will make the top very gently between your finger. It will be a case of squishing and squishing up until you get the shapes you prefer, unless you can roll the marzipan flat with a rolling pin, for example. If you have cookie cutters, feel free to use them. It's much easier as long as you make sure the marzipan doesn't get stuck on the side of the table. Once again, I use the back of the knife this time to make a bit more pronounced of a cut in the center to really shape the middle of the heart. There you go. In any case, the marzipan won't dry very quickly. It will take probably a good few hours. It depends on the amount of liquid you put in your dough. But for the moment, it's perfect. Not too sticky, holds itself, and stays quite wet, so you can actually change the shape if you want to. Here we go. Leave it to dry. Another shape that you might like, a pear. It's very traditional, and it was already in Tudor times, to make a lot of fruits or flowers out of marzipan. Once again, the Queen of England, so Elizabeth I, who loved that, received a lot of marzipan gifts, actually, for New Year instead of Christmas at the time. And a lot of them were sculptures made out of marzipan, including a whole abbey. Now, to make the pear, you just make a little point at the end of a sphere. So you reuse the same methods, but you really make a pointy end and a sort of little flattened end. This way it can actually rest easily. There you go. And once again, you will have to leave it to dry. Now for the chocolate, favorite part. We have left everything to dry for about an hour only. You need 2 forks and melted chocolate, dark chocolate I prefer personally, and you melt it over a pan of boiling water. Now, drop completely the truffles, as long as they are dry enough, in the pan of dark chocolate. And using the 2 forks, you make sure you roll them completely in the dark chocolate. Cover every single side. Save a little bit of drips and put it straight away to dry on the side. Another one. There you go. Roll with the forks. Make sure you don't forget any side. You can leave them very easily to dry, just like that, on grease-proof paper. You don't need the little metal griddle that I had on the side. It's actually much easier to use just paper or even a plate. Now, you can also take one, dip it in the chocolate, and only have chocolate on one side. Leave it to dry, ideally on the almond side. There you go. Now the heart. Decorate it as you prefer it. I will just show you what I did quickly. I just put a lot of melted dark chocolate on one side of the heart, on one half, and kept going until I was sure there was enough chocolate, especially on the sides of it. Also, if you prefer decorating it with little strips or little bubbles, little beads or anything, please feel free to do anything you like. It's your creation. Always make sure you put the chocolate all at the same time, because when it will dry, it will then create leftovers. Add a little bit of milk. Stir, stir, stir. Your pan of hot water might not be hot enough, so take everything away and you can make hot chocolate. There you go. Now, about the pear. You remember the pear and the peach? I made a little hole at the top and I have some dried sage leaves. But you can use any edible little leaves that you can find, even in your garden. But make sure they're not poisonous, of course. Now for the peach, again, I made a little hole. Another type of sage leaves. I find them prettier. And you can even add another little one. But once again, any type of leaves that are nice and again that are edible or that you will not eat, you can decorate them with it. Thank you for watching.